this boat here and this one on top of the line over there.
6 months after Hurricane Dorian ripped through this area, being out on the water is like navigating a minefield.
You got a lot of debris, see other cars and stuff like that.
Philip Thomas makes his living on these waters just off Grand Bahama Island, but he lost so much more than just his livelihood to Dorian.
My family is taking it real hard.
As the storm surge hit, Phil's son and 3 grandchildren were swept away. His daughter-in-law could only watch them disappear.
The boat capsized and PJ and the kids went one way and she got washed one side, like that.
That must be hard to keep going, though.
Yeah, it's hard to keep going, but if I stop, then I think it was even harder because, I get my mind will continue to dwell on what has happened,
Despite losing so much, Phil and his community are trying to move forward. McLeanstown, once 200 strong, is dependent upon the sea, and they're getting some help from Canadians to rebuild. Boats now litter what was once a front yard, hauled from where the storm tossed them, brought here to have holes mended, sometimes new floors installed too.
We as fishermen, over the years, we learned how to master fixing our own boats.
All overseen by Joseph Thomas, born and raised in McLeanstown, intent on seeing it thrive once again.
This community is 80% fishermen. So you see why this project is so needful and helpful in this community, because we get 80% of the men in this community, that's where they make a living to feed their family off these boats.
As much as Joseph and a handful of other Bahamians are the ones doing the work, it would not have been possible without Canadian money. The charity Global Medic paying these workers to fix their community's boats.
It might not be as fancy as the shop, but I guarantee it'll be stronger because we're going to put our heart and soul into it, because this was a master plan here with the locals fixing their own boats.
And it's not just boats. With water covering 80% of this island for days, homes were left with an enduring danger.
A mold is a lingering threat. You might not see it right away, but it gets into your respiratory system and it causes lots of infections and just cascading health problems. So
it's like the effects of the storm live on.
Exactly, yeah. It's almost a second or third disaster.
Jowett Wong leads the Global Medic team here, which trained and now employs 45 Bahamians. A trickle-down effect to both clean up the destruction and put money and skill back into the Bahamas. Each day, they clear out the damage from up to a dozen houses, ready them for the safe return of their owners.
Inside, we were at about 36 inches of water that settled. So of course,
people like Xenia Williams, who's been living with relatives since the storm hit. She's grateful for the help, says she couldn't have afforded to do it on her own, but she knows it's a long road ahead.
I would say by September, October, I should be able to be in the house and probably just have a portion of it.
But that means you'll have been out of the house for a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
While some may be slowly getting back on their feet, it's a different story a short boat ride away on the island of Great Abaco. Abaco isn't as much of a tourist destination, and much less attention has been paid to its much greater damage.
Hey, Brother OJ. Okay, how was church today? Blessings? Yes.
When you see this now, a roof going back on a house, what do you think?
This is progress.
Bishop Silbert Mills is a fixture here. After the storm, many people were forced to leave for other islands, even as far as the U.S. In short, people went anywhere but here.
Of all of the people who had to flee their homes, are most of them back? Are half of them back?
Not even a quarter. They have no place to come to. Their homes have been either destroyed or compromised sufficiently that they can't return. I think it's $7,000 if you had
Walk the streets here, and you quickly understand why. Businesses were wiped out, taking jobs with them. And for some, rebuilding is simply not possible. Home insurance here too expensive. It can be $1,000 a month or more.
People are hurting and they expect.
So when the storm hit, most people had no coverage.
I'm 60 years old. I can't go to a bank for financing anymore. This is beyond just the loss of a home. Many people have no way to recover. There's no way to recover.
Among the worst off are those who started with almost nothing. In this makeshift camp, Haitians who fled one disaster in their home country have now been displaced to these tents by a new disaster. Bishop Silbert believes the true loss of life will never be known.
We believe that there were at least 1,000 people that we can't account for. The numbers aren't there because the government is only going by what they were able to find as far as recover. But we believe that the numbers surpass that in a huge way. Come on in.
With such loss, all Bishop Silbert can offer is comfort.
And when we want to make announcements, we'll do it right from here.
He now lives in this donated trailer, still runs a radio station, a beacon for those left on Abaco.
And good Sunday afternoon, Abaco. This is Radio Abaco 93.5 FM. I hope you enjoy this beautiful afternoon. Here's the cooling water.
Back on Grand Bahama Island in Freeport, the cruise ships are back. The beach is not exactly bustling, but tourism is slowly returning. The economy tied to it, jobs reliant on it. And Phil is ready.
PJ Ciales.
His boat at long last repaired by the Canadian-funded team and renamed after his son.
Oh man, I'm elated, man. I'm elated. Words cannot express my feelings.
A few days later, Phil takes some of the Global Medic crew out for a test ride, and he has his first client already lined up for a sport fishing trip. It cannot erase what has happened, but for Phil and for the Bahamas, there can still be hope.
So, David, this is a part of the world that gets battered by hurricanes, and people have to brace themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Hurricane season now just about 5 months away, Ian, and fairly good chance the Bahamas will once again perhaps be in the eye of a storm. This is a country where many people don't have a roof over their home or don't have a home at all. Where there are buildings, there is now an urgency to getting them fixed up. And there's actually a Canadian woman named Mary Knowles who we ran into. She's originally from PEI, lives in the Bahamas now, and she's actually doing quite a bit of work trying to do mold remediation in people's homes, trying to get them back in before the fall.
A lot of people didn't have insurance because we've had a poor economy for a few years because since 2004, we've just had hurricane after hurricane after hurricane. And so they're not able to afford the mold remediation.
You know, I think when you talk about a 40, and so many people think of the Bahamas and think, well, it's where billionaires hang out, but it doesn't mean the country itself or many Bahamians are wealthy. There is a limited capacity all around to do the level of cleanup that needs to be done in that country.
And tell us a little bit about your next story.
Right, so Ian, we wanted to look particularly at students. So many students are not in school or not in the school that they had been prior to the hurricane. Many schools have been obliterated. There's one school on Great Abaco Island that we visited in part because they're trying to fix it up, trying to get students back in by the fall, but also we went there because a Canadian woman who died in Dorian had been a teacher at this school. We wanted to check in, see how things are going, in part because some of those students are actually taking classes now just in teachers' homes. Take a look.
There you go. Write your alphabets for me. Just practice writing your letters. There's your A, your B, your C, your D. Well, we're not in school now because, as you know, that storm Dorian came through and it just created havoc on our facility. What is today's day?
It's not just the school these children have lost. One of their teachers, a Canadian, also died in the storm. Alicia Loley was from LaSalle, Ontario, just outside Windsor.
She was just a joy to be around. She really knew what she wanted to do, and we're gonna definitely continue doing that in her honor.
I look forward to seeing that this week on The National. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Ian.